Welcome to this week's edition of Bowl Season Stories. I'm Nick Carparelli, the Executive Director of Bowl Season, and each week different guests from the world of college football join me to talk about current topics in the sport, as well as discuss what they remember most about their bowl game experiences. Today, we are joined by veteran sports journalist and BowlSeason.com staff writer Kevin McNamara, former Air Force Academy Falcon and Outland Trophy winner Chad Hennings, and Capital One Orange Bowl Executive Director Eric Poms. Today's show is brought to you by Nom's Cookies. Our first guest was a sports writer for the Providence Journal for 30 years and is currently the host of the KevinMacSports.com hour on WPRO radio in Providence. And as I said earlier, a staff writer for BowlSeason.com. He's a fellow Syracuse alum, a good friend, and not a bad golfer. Please welcome to the show, Kevin McNamara.
Hey, Nick, thanks very much. Pleasure to be here. And boy, it's certainly college football season big time right now. It
is for sure. Well, thanks again for joining us. Let's jump right in and talk bowl projections. Today, you put out BowlSeason.com's first bowl projections for this year. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, Nick, the goal here was to put together a thoughtful view towards what bowl matchups look like right now if the season ended today. So they're a fun way to look at all the games based on the college football playoff rankings that came out last night and the conference ranking, conference standings. So that they're not a representation, it's kind of not a look or a representation of inside information. The main goal of the projection really is to stimulate conversation. That's what we all do here in college football.
People love to talk about college football, that's for sure. And that's what we're trying to do here. So our audience understands, unlike other bowl projections that may predict what might happen in the conference championship games, et cetera, our bowl projections are just that. They're about right now. They're about today, where you think the teams might be slotted if the season ended today.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. Each week we're going to build out a logical look at all the bowls, determining the prospective matchups that could unfold at this moment in time. So it's a snapshot. It's kind of a snapshot of bowl season right now.
All right. Well, so these projections obviously start today, one day after the first college football rankings came out. They're going to continue weekly, leading up to bowl season's official selections on Sunday, December 5th. What else goes into determining these projections?
Well, like you said, the college football playoff rankings are a big part, of course, and certainly they lock in the first four games that people pay attention to. The first two games, the first four teams that people pay attention to, which makes perfect sense. But from there, we look at conference tie-ins and the league standings. For example, the Sugar Bowl is tied to the Big 12 and the SEC. So we know that Alabama is in the top four. So our Sugar Bowl matchup features Oklahoma and Auburn. Auburn would be the third SEC team because the first two, Georgia and Alabama, are in the two CFP games.
Okay, that makes sense. A lot of nuances to this. Hard for the fan to keep track, and hopefully we could have some fun with this in the upcoming weeks. Right. Any projections particularly intriguing to you? I'm gonna tell you mine. Syracuse, Penn State in the Pinstripe Bowl. I mean, that's a rivalry that goes way back when both schools were independents. They haven't played each other in a while. Conference alignment just doesn't allow for that. But the idea, we got a long way to go, but the idea that they could play each other in the Pinstripe Bowl, that game might sell out in a day if that was announced.
It really would. Nick, I'm from New England, so I grew up with those Eastern independents, like you said, Syracuse, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Boston College, West Virginia, just great old time rivalries. Yankee Stadium, Syracuse and Penn State. Can I go? Like you said, instant sellout. I think the media would love to spend a few days in New York City as well. That would be a home run.
We could probably get you a ticket even if it's sold out. So you're on for that.
Great. Another one that's interesting to me, and I know that they could not play the game last year because of the pandemic, but there's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, and I know that they'd like to be California centered. How about our matchup has Fresno State and Southern Cal? Can't get much more California than that one.
No, you can't. And it's pretty amazing what we just did there, Kevin. We covered coast to coast, the two biggest markets in the country 42 other bowl games in between them. We kind of captured it all in those 2 games, and a lot of fun talking about this. You've been to a number of bowl games in your life, both covering them and as a fan. This podcast is called Bowl Season Stories for a reason.
Sure.
Any memories from your experiences in bowl games that stand out to you?
Well, professionally, I've enjoyed covering bowl games, but I like when I went back and saw my very first bowl game. I was a fan. I was a student at Syracuse, as you mentioned earlier, and in my senior year, they go undefeated and go to the Sugar Bowl and play Auburn in New Orleans. So if you can only imagine the fun that the 21-year-old Syracuse kids had down there. My first look at Bourbon Street, first time to New Orleans. It was a great memory. We stayed, how about this, Nick? We stayed at a sorority at Tulane. Because why wouldn't you want to stay at a sorority in New Orleans? So, it's a good way to roll.
We all have our bowl season stories. That's a little different than the ones that the former players are telling me. But that's what makes bowl season great. They provide these great memories for the players, for the fans, for the host communities. Holly Rowe was on last week, and she talked about going to bowl games was a family holiday tradition for her family. I didn't know that. Wow. They would follow BYU around to all their bowl games, and that's where they would spend the holidays. And those are the kind of stories we love here on Bowl Season Stories.
Yeah, and obviously that was the biggest bowl game in Syracuse history for almost 35 years. I believe they played in the Cotton Bowl in like 1960. So to go to the Sugar Bowl, half of Central New York was there, and very famous ending. Pat Dye, a great coach at Auburn, and he ended up getting the nickname from Central New York of Pat Tie because they kicked a late field goal to tie it. So needless to say, very disappointing because Syracuse had legitimate national championship hopes if they were to go completely undefeated. So back in 1987, it was a great run.
And I believe the Syracuse fans flooded Coach Dye's mailbox with ties shortly after that game.
I just want to say that was not me. I did not do that. I didn't discourage my fellow Orange people from doing so, but I did not go down that path.
Well, I'm guessing that's because in your college days, you probably did not own a tie.
That's a good point. I certainly didn't bring one to New Orleans.
Well, Kevin, I know you're busy. Thanks so much for being on the show. We're all going to be on the lookout for those projections coming out later this afternoon, and really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show, and good luck to you.
You're welcome. Every Wednesday, come to bowlseason.com for our weekly projections. Gonna have some fun.
Our next guest is a former defensive tackle for the Air Force Academy Falcons and Outland Trophy winner, Chad Hennings. Chad went on to play 9 years for the Dallas Cowboys, where he won 3 Super Bowl championships. Chad, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me.
Chad, I live just outside of Annapolis, Maryland, which is a little bit enemy territory for you. I live very close to the Naval Academy, but I have a great appreciation for all the military academies. I've been to many Army Navy games. This year, I attended the Air Force Navy game on 9/11. And that was a pretty special day. And the 3 service academies play for the Commander in Chief Trophy every year, which I think is a tremendous achievement to win that series each year. You and your Air Force team won it twice while you were there. I understand that you got a chance to go to Washington, meet President Reagan. What was that day like? And tell us just in general what it's like to play football for one of the service academies.
It's not your normal collegiate experience, that's for sure. Playing football at a service academy, all cadets have to participate in some form of athletics, whether that's intramurals or intercollegiate athletics. So football at a service academy is not priority number one, like it probably would be if you'd attend a Power 5 school, University, of Alabama or Texas or Oklahoma. So playing there, you as a student athlete, you have to be able to do everything else that your fellow cadets do. That's, take upwards of almost 18, 19 credit hours per semester, as long as with all the military training, inspections, parades, everything else, the military training that we do in the summertime. We have the opportunity to, fly Cessna 172s, to fly glider aircraft, to travel to different Air Force bases and see what it's like to be on active duty. So playing football at a service academy was a very unique experience, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do it.
Now, your sophomore year in 1985, you guys had a great year. You went to the Blue Bonnet Bowl in Houston, Texas. You defeated Texas 24-16. That was your first bowl season experience. What
Actually,
were your
I'll just correct you on that. My first bowl experience was the Independence Bowl when we played Virginia Tech there at Shreveport in Louisiana.
Okay,
so we got to play, back.
So tell me about both those games, Independence Bowl, the Blue Bonnet Bowl. What was it like taking a trip with your teammates to a unique destination and having those bowl week experiences?
For us, and again, it loops back to that service academy experience. We don't get off the campus that much. We're kind of sequestered throughout the whole week. And for us to be able to, to travel an away game, let alone experience that 3+ days that you go to a bowl game. And I'll caveat it with this, we're talking 30+ years ago that this was when we didn't have as many bowl games as what they have today. So they had maybe, a handful, 7, 8, 9, 10 bowl games total, unlike they have today. So for us to be able to go to, whether that was the Blue Bonnet Bowl in Houston, Texas, to get away from the academy, get away from academics and kind of concentrate purely on football, it was an awesome experience. And for us, we kind of felt a little envious to see how their opposing team, how they interacted and get a chance to talk with them, what their quote unquote football or collegiate experience was totally different from what we experienced, at a service academy.
Yeah. You mentioned there not being as many bowl games back then. So, in order to go to a bowl game when you played, you had to have a really good season. And that 1985 season, you guys finished 12-1. Fisher DeBerry's second season, I think you finished top 10 in the country. Tell us about Coach DeBerry. Tell us about that team and what made you guys so good.
I think why any service academy can compete at a Division I level is the aspect that you just hit the nail on the head. We are a team. We don't necessarily have the best athletes that are out there, but collectively together with the game plan that the coaches put together, we can compete, and we typically compete against individuals that are bigger, faster, stronger than what we were. Coach DeBerry being his second year, on that particular team, that 1985 team, if we would have beat BYU and we ended up being co-conference champs, but if we'd have won that game and ran the table, we would have been playing Penn State for the national championship. That's how close we were. And I think that tells you how special that team was back in the day for have a service academy where you have a total student body of under 4,500 cadets to be able to compete for a national championship. I mean, that says something special. And on that team, myself, Scott Thomas, and Coach DeBerry are all now Hall of Famers in the College Football Hall of Fame. But it was one of those things, offense, defense, special teams. It was a well-oiled machine. Yeah, we'd had some good athletes, but collectively together, we were a well-oiled machine.
Your senior year, you guys were 9-3, another great season. But for you personally, you obviously had a tremendous year. You won the Outland Trophy. You guys won the Commander-in-Chief Trophy that year. And you went to the Freedom Bowl in Anaheim, California to cap off your career. I believe that was your last college football game. And for most of your senior teammates, was the last football game they ever played, which is something pretty special. I think people don't appreciate about that bowl game experience. For a lot of people, it gives them that one last opportunity. But let's pry a little deeper into that bowl week experience. You mentioned earlier interacting with the other team and being able to be off base a little bit. But tell us about that 3-4 day trip. Any stories, anything that happened on or off the field that made any of those bowl games a little bit more memorable for you?
It's you're putting me on the spot here, Nick. As you know, I've been hitting the head so many times I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone 30+ years ago.
You probably have some stories that you can't share. So you got
you always have those, but it's but what we look at, what was so special for us is you get all the swag that you get from going to the bowl games. You get sweatsuits, you get athletic apparel, you get the bowl ring, the bowl watch. all those things that I still have today, and I've given to my father. My father still wears, the bowl watch to this day. And, as far as experiences going out to Anaheim, going to, Knott's Berry Farm, to just the different sightseeing places that we did. And being from a service academy too, we always had a large military contingent that we would go visit. If there was a base in the local area, we would do visits to that base. And it was always great to see, and to appreciate and to honor the men and women that served active duty back then, to thank them for their service. And because that's, again, back to the service academies, all three teams, we don't really have being a national recognized team. I think we're all like the Dallas Cowboys, all America's teams, that everybody, no matter where you're from, you can root for Air Force, you can root for an Annapolis, you can root for a West Point, because they take football players from all over the country. And, those bowl experiences, again, they're second to none.
Yep. So true. Air Force is 3-1 in their last 4 bowl games. I know you follow the program closely. They're having a good year. They're 6-2 this year, so they've punched their ticket to bowl season. What are your thoughts on this year's team?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. They, for us at the service academies, they don't necessarily have the depth in talent that a lot of other schools have, just because the recruiting, the numbers. But if they can stay healthy, we've got a phenomenal offense, and the defense has been competent. That, we've already qualified, we're bowl eligible. So whether that means we're going to, back to Fort Worth for the Armed Forces Bowl, I'm not sure who's up for that one this year, but I hope they come to Texas, because it's a great recruiting opportunity just to be able to recruit kids out of the great state of Texas, and always keep us one up on West Point and Annapolis, just in that area alone.
And that would certainly give you an opportunity to not travel too far and to see them.
Exactly. For selfish reasons for myself.
Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed that. But speaking of that, while it's not a bowl game, the Commanders Classic between Air Force and Army is being played in Arlington, Texas this weekend, home of the Texas Rangers. I know this is such an impressive facility, and it's I'm sure you're really looking forward to. I'm sure you're going to be there. And a victory by Air Force would earn them the Commander-in-Chief trophy again this year. Are you looking forward to that game?
Most definitely. We like it as bragging rights with our inter-service rivalry with brothers. And, to describe that rivalry, it's like sibling rivalry. You compete, you get after it, you knock down, bloody each other's nose. But, old Texas phrase, Katie bar the door, if somebody comes against the family, it's all brothers, all hands on deck, using a Navy term, to get after it. But we've got side bets going with my buddies from West Point that played football there. It's going to be a phenomenal event. And it's the first game played at Globe Life Field. And the reason why they're doing this is to elevate the game, that Air Force Army rivalry and competition, because of the 3 service academies. Air Force is number 1 with the number of Commander-in-Chief's trophies won. I believe West Point is number 2 and Annapolis is number 3 in that regard. So we want to keep that number 1 position. So we're gonna win the game and win that first Commanders Classic trophy.
That was going to be my last question, Chad. I just picked up on something. You call the other 2 service academies West Point and Annapolis, and not their name. Is that intentional? Is that a little brotherly ribbing there as well?
As far as the Knights of the Goats, or as opposed to the Falcons, they've got these squirrely mascots. Who likes a goat and who likes a donkey? An ass, right?
Yeah.
So we got the cool mascot, a falcon. A peregrine falcon, something that goes high speed. It's very masculine, and so we got bragging rights that way.
I get it. Well, Chad, we've taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much for being on the show. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a short break and be right back with Capital One Orange Bowl Executive Director Eric Poms. Stay with us.
The first goal of every college football team at the beginning of the season is to win 6 games and qualify for a bowl game. They've punched their ticket and now are officially bowl bound. We're very excited to announce a new tradition with official bowl season gear given out in the locker room moments after winning that 6th game. t-shirts that celebrate the achievement. Fans can join the celebration by going online to bowlseason.com, where they can order their own bowl-bound t-shirt. Bowl season is a celebration of college football, so celebrate with your team when they become bowl eligible.
Welcome back to the show. Our next guest is in his 28th year with the Orange Bowl Committee. He spearheaded its inclusion in the new college football playoff that began in 2014-15, which includes hosting 8 traditional Capital One Orange Bowl games featuring the ACC champion versus a top-rated team from the Big Ten, SEC, or Notre Dame, and 4 semifinals in a 12-year period, all over the New Year's holiday weekend. The executive director of the Capital One Orange Bowl, and really one of the best guys in college sports that you'll ever meet, Eric Poms. Eric, welcome to the show.
You're one of the great guys, Nick, not me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Eric, you guys had a great Orange Bowl last year. Texas A&M won a back-and-forth game with North Carolina. In fact, the last several years have been great games. I know teams really get excited to come to Miami and play in the Orange Bowl. Talk about the history and tradition of your game and why it's such a special event each year.
Yeah, listen, there's so many great bowl games across the country. We're proud of what we've created here in South Florida. It goes back 88 years to 1935. Our current president, Jack Seiler, who you know very well, his grandfather, Ernie Seiler, was really the founding father of the bowl game. And the great thing about here at the Orange Bowl, I'm guessing the same thing at the Rose and the Sugar and Cotton and a lot of the historic bowl games, Sun Bowl, is our mission statement hasn't changed. It really hasn't in 88 years. And, it's about bringing economic development to the area. It's about bringing, a great annual series of events culminating with the bowl game to the residents of South Florida. And by virtue of the success of the bowl game, doing great things in the community. So, we're proud of it. One of the great things I've observed, I grew up in Miami, but I live in Weston now. And this is a South Florida event. It's a regional event. And it's really evolved the organization, the event, with the growth of South Florida. So it's just a special place. No one owns the bowl game. It's different than any other event that you see in South Florida. It's owned by the community. So we're proud of that, and we look forward to continuing a great tradition. And as you mentioned, it was a lot of fun last year to have the bowl game itself. It was such trying times with COVID, and to be able to get through the regular season and the bowl game took place, and to have North Carolina for the first time ever in our bowl game. And I think it was the first time in 71 so odd years for Texas A&M to come back to the Orange Bowl. The Capital One Orange Bowl game was, different, but it was spectacular in its own way. And you were there. I remember spending some good time with you.
Eric, what are some of your favorite Orange Bowl moments? Maybe not a play on the field necessarily. I mean, everybody turns the TV on around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and they watch your game. But at that point, the teams have been in town for 5-6 days, and they've had so many events, so many times together. Over the years, I'm sure you've seen a lot of things and have a lot of great memories of the fun experiences that the teams have had while at your game. Talk to us about some of your favorite memories.
I've been here a long time, so there's a lot of memories. There's a few that stand out. I mean, about 3 years ago, we had our last semifinal game, and Oklahoma was here playing Alabama. And as you know, with the history of the Orange Bowl and the old Big 8 conference, Oklahoma's been here so many times. When the Big 8 became the Big 12, the alignment changed. But inevitably, in the 4 times we hosted national championships in the BCS era, we had Oklahoma the first 3 times. And the last time they got knocked out by Notre Dame at the last second, end of the season. And then we get into the CFP era, and we're in our third opportunity. But the first 2, we've had Oklahoma. There's something about Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. It's in the bowl. I tell Joe Castiglione all the time, I don't know what it is. It's divine intervention. And so they came down 3 years ago. Joe asked if I would say a few words to the team. And it was unbelievable because they were here right before Christmas. And you had the whole team in there, and the coaches and the administrators, including Joe. And just to talk about that history of 21 times they've been in the Orange Bowl, and this is the latest iteration. It just had profound meaning for me. I grew up in Miami. I went to so many Oklahoma games, and to be standing there in this job, talking to the Oklahoma football team was pretty cool for me. So that jumps out. Another quick story is we do legacy gifts here, which are projects. We partner with government and we go into, areas that really need renovations, areas of great need. And we're in Belle Glade. And we built this beautiful field out there, and they were doing a Super Bowl clinic, and they invited the Orange Bowl to be part of it. It was Orange Bowl Field at Glaze Pioneer Park, and Santonio Holmes came. And we were talking to him before, and he pointed to the corner of our field, and he goes, "You see that corner there?" And he said, "That's where I caught my first touchdown pass ever." And for us, having done this community investment, it resonated that not only is it giving back to the community as we should do, to have a student athlete from Ohio State that went on to catch probably one of the greatest passes in Super Bowl history, say that just brings meaning to what we're doing each and every day. So those are two things that jump out.
Wow, what an amazing story that is. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you mentioned the community involvement in that story. You mentioned it earlier too, and you mentioned that the Orange Bowl is really it's not just a Miami event; it's a South Florida event. Your four pillars of community outreach include youth sports fundraising and community events, academic programs and scholarships, and legacy gifts. Tell us more about what Orange Bowl does in the community of South Florida.
Yeah, listen, I observe what's going on across the bowl landscape, and I think we're all very proud of that. Down here in South Florida, we've centered on youth and sports. And so that touches, a big investment in youth football and cheerleading. We have a program called the Orange Bowl Youth Football Alliance, which has, I think, 11 leagues that are under our umbrella. We don't run the leagues, but we help fund, we help produce events, we help market what they're doing because they are the future. A lot of the kids in South Florida, as you know, it's a pretty good recruiting base for college football, play college football, go on to the NFL. And we just feel that we should invest in that because that helps do what we do each and every year here at the Orange Bowl. We have a leadership academy that's in the middle school programs with really impactful ages of 6th, 7th, 8th graders. We do fundraising to do more and more that we can put back in the community. We do scholarships and athletic programs, a lot of our partners. And as mentioned earlier, we're on our 6th legacy gift right now, where we go to, those neighborhoods that need a renovation. Parks have such a central theme in getting the kids in a safe environment and to help them play sports, not just football, but baseball, soccer, lacrosse. And we've done 6, and we're incredibly proud of that. We're about to build our 6th one at Mitchellmore Park, which is next to Pompano Ely High School here in South Florida, which is one of the great feeder programs to college football. Patrick Peterson went there, and it's just a great thing to do. It's a lasting legacy, and we get to partner with our city and county partners here in South Florida, so it's really special.
The Orange Bowl is once again a CFP semifinal this year, and Hard Rock Stadium hosted the CFP National Championship game last year. Plus, you've been a CFP semifinal 2 other times. I mean, to me, it just feels right when a big bowl season game is played in South Florida. Last year was obviously a challenge with limited capacity, but this year you're going to have a full stadium again. How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, across the bowl spectrum, everybody's really looking forward to getting full capacity crowds in our buildings. As mentioned earlier, I grew up here in South Florida, so I went to Orange Bowl games as a kid. I can't believe I work here, and for 28 years for that matter. So I've seen, what a big time event means to our community, whether it's, in the college space, whether it's in NFL Super Bowls that come down here, whatever it may be. We're looking forward to it. I mean, even last year, while not at full capacity, it was just incredible to pull it off with the leadership of college football, to see so many bowl games that have games. And for South Florida to have it down here to culminate the season was was special, and now we're back to full capacities. And, Hard Rock Stadium is an incredible venue. The Miami Dolphins have invested so much. We got to thank Steve Ross and Tom Garfinkel for what they've done in transforming that venue. It's a pretty unique stadium to play in. And, hopefully, knock on wood, the weather is what it usually is, which is, the best time of year to be in South Florida. And, we're excited about it each and every time you have that opportunity. We're excited when we have a traditional Capital One Orange Bowl game. But it's going to be great, as you mentioned, to have full crowds, the energy that we missed so much last year.
We mentioned earlier you're in your 28th year with the Orange Bowl Committee. You have you've worked over 30 years in college athletics. When you look back at your career thus far, what stands out? Is there anything you're most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody comes to the same conclusion. It's the people, it's the platform that we get to do each and every day. I mean, when you're a kid growing up and you love sports and you couldn't imagine that your profession would be in this genre, is pretty special. But it's the people. I've been a few places here, 28, but before that, I was a few places before: the University of Florida, the Blockbuster Bowl, UNLV, and starting the Las Vegas Bowl, and here at the Orange Bowl. There's so many people that come around and touch you, and you being one of them, Nick. I mean, you and I go way back to the Big East days, to the American, and now having you lead bowl season. It just means a lot to me. It's a great industry. It's evolved as we've gone through the evolution of what postseason college football has become. But I look forward to it. The colleagues here work with a lot of great people that have come and gone and done great things. And the people here now, led by Anna Hernandez, our new COO. We have a great team and a great committee. Our committee is 380 strong, and they really care about what's going on here, and they stand on the shoulders of the generations before them. So that's what I'm most proud of.
You mentioned the relationships. I think that's one of the most special things about working in the bowl industry, working in college athletics in general. In fact, Dave Lonstadt was our guest last week, and he mentioned you specifically and the lifelong friendship that he's found with you. But to that point, do you have any mentors that stand out in your mind over the course of your career, and what's some of the best advice you received from them over that time?
Yeah, well, I definitely have a few mentors that stand out. I mean, I went to the University of Florida. I worked as a basketball manager. I'm one of those guys that entered in, but I became very close with Jeremy Foley when I was at the University of Florida. He was not the athletic director at the time, but he soon became one of the leading athletic directors in the country. So he's been giving me counsel and advice all the way through my career. My first job was with Richard Giannini, and when we did the Blockbuster Bowl, and the executive director of that game was Keith Tribble, who became my closest mentor. And the two of them, I still stay in touch with them. Richard's obviously in the bowl industry doing the Bahamas Bowl, and just love the guy. I love Keith. I stay in close touch, as mentioned. And but when it comes to advice, there was an indelible moment for me, is when Keith became the athletic director at the University of Central Florida. It was at the BCS meetings where he told our folks, and within a day, I kind of knew I was going to be given the opportunity. And as I was leaving this meeting, your former boss and your mentor, Mike Tranghese, pulled me aside. And I'll never forget this, because it was like a wow moment for me to have this opportunity. And he said, when I was at the Big East, I replaced the legend of all legends, Dave Gavitt. And he told me this, and I'm going to tell you this, Eric. You're going to be stepping into the shoes of Keith Tribble, and he's obviously a larger-than-life personality. But you know what? You just have to be yourself. That's what got you there. Just be who you are. You're not Keith. You're you. You have your strengths. You have your challenges, and just roll with it. And I always think of that, because Keith was just incredibly, infectious personality. He's gregarious, and I'm more of a grind it up guy and get things done in my own way. And I really appreciated that, because the context of Dave Gavitt to Mike was a legend in its own right, really helped me, leading into my job.
Well, you do a great job, Eric. Everybody knows that. You mentioned your committee of 380 people. I don't know if any bowl has a bigger committee. I know many of your committee members, after all these years, they still like you. And that in and of itself says a lot. It's hard to keep a group like that together. But you do an unbelievable job. The college football playoff semifinal at the Capital One Orange Bowl is scheduled for Friday, December 31st at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. The game will be broadcast on ESPN. Eric, thank you so much for your time. You're the best. You continue to be a tremendous asset for the game of college football. Thanks for all you do for us and for being on the show. Good luck this bowl season.
Nick, thanks for all you do for bowl season. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today.
And thanks to all of you for listening to this week's Bowl Season Stories podcast. Please join us next week when we will welcome another lineup of great guests. If you like the show, we'd appreciate you dropping a 5-star rating for the podcast. And as always, you can follow all the podcast and bowl season news on our website, bowlseason.com, and on social media at Bowl Season. Thanks for listening.